Taz.
Our time is your next destination.
Thank you. Welcome. Please be seated. Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Anne-Marie and I'm the Chief of Staff at UNAIDS, and I'll be your moderator for this event. We are really, truly honored today to welcome to UNAIDS His Excellency, Dr. Motsoeneng Masisi, President of the Republic of Botswana. We are equally delighted to welcome back Her Excellency, the First Lady, Mrs. Neo Masisi, and we look forward to working with you. We'd like to recognize the Minister of Health and Wellness, the Honorable Dr. Alfred Madi Hele, Minister of International Affairs and Incorporation, the Honorable Minister Dr. Yinihita, Ambassador Natalia Molokome, so much. The Chief of Protocol, Don Moretti, ambassadors, permanent representatives to the UN in Geneva, welcome to UNAIDS. You can see we are graced also with some presents of these beautiful baskets from Botswana. Thank you so much for sharing your culture with us. And now, before we start, we would like to show a short video.
National crisis as AIDS ravaged the small southern African nation of 2 million. Despite having one of the highest rates of HIV in the world, 23% of adults live with HIV, the country has shown remarkable progress. New HIV infections have fallen 63% since the peak of '96. Elimination of mother-to-child HIV transmission is within reach. And 84% of people living with HIV are on life-saving treatment. AIDS-related deaths have decreased to 4,000 from 15,000 20 years ago. Botswana was the first country in the region to provide universal, free, antiretroviral treatment to people living with HIV, leading the way. Most of this success is the result of the Treat All policy. Revitalizing HIV prevention along with treatment for communities is now key. Botswana, committed to a healthy nation and an AIDS-free future.
I learned a response, which is hula. I think if you look at this video, the response is hula. It is really, truly a very inspiring journey, and we look forward to what comes next. It's now my great pleasure to invite Michelle Sidibe, the Undersecretary General of the United Nations and the Executive Director of UNAIDS, to give his welcoming remarks and to introduce the President. Michelle.
Your Excellency, my brother, President Masisi, Dr. President Masisi. I want to just to say to the First Lady, to Minister, to the Ambassador present, that we're privileged to have the President with us today. It is not just the President of Botswana. He is the leader we all want to have. I know the President Masisi for a long time. He has been always fighting for social justice, for making sure that the voice of voiceless could be heard. He was with us in this journey for a long time. I don't remember any meeting, important meeting, small one, big one, where he was not present. And when he was present, it was always to push the issues of people who were at the margin, the human rights issue, making sure that the ones who are excluded could have access to services. So I'm not surprised, allow me to say that you are here. And let me really ask you to really do that. I know also that I'm privileged one. He has always had a soft spot for me. And I want to say thanks for that consideration. And today we are here to have this conversation with you because you're not the leader of yesterday. You're the leader of tomorrow. Leaders, our continent are dreaming to have more and more. Leaders who will be probably push this vision for a right multilateralism. And leaders who will build bridges. I heard you, Minister of Foreign Affairs, other day. And that is important. Leaders who will be able to demonstrate that this success story of Botswana is not just about AIDS, it's about transformation of the continent. And this conversation, I don't want to start by repeating what we saw in this small video. It's a very well done summary. But we move from what I can say, despair to hope. And that is very important message. It's two words, but it is two words which can summarize clearly what happened in Botswana. What happened in Botswana is exactly what we want in the fight against any disease, is to really move from just disease to health, to put people at the center, to just say that this, we will never win against this epidemic if it's just from the top without the people at the community level. And the leadership top has been able to provide help to make the bridge with the communities. And that's why we have been seeing this result. And that is what is needed if you want really to build a healthy society. And I want to say again, thanks for being here. Thanks for the fantastic work which has been done. But as you know, my last report was about miles to go. Sometimes the biggest problem we have in the development arena, and I want to say that very strongly, anytime we are about to win, we move. We move from one agenda to another because we just said, okay, it's almost done. And unfortunately, it's not done. We could really stop this epidemic. We could make an end to this epidemic. But if we become complacent, President, we will have a rebound in this epidemic. And it will be unfortunate because the way we have been able to bring global solidarity and to work with our leadership and our communities to achieve what we have been able to achieve, we don't want to lose that. We know from where we came from, and we don't want to go back there. And I want to ask you to be our advocate, to continue to make the world understanding that is one of the best success story we had in the public health during the last 30 years. And we don't want to lose that success story. This is not about just a disease. It's about human rights. It's about the right of women. It's about making sure that we have a proper mechanism to have affordable medicine. It's about transforming the society to make it better. And we have been contributing to that. I know you for a long time, and your heart is at the right place. And we want you to continue to be our advocate. And we want to thank you. Thanks to your Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thanks to your ambassador. Thanks to the First Lady, Minister of Health, all the other ambassadors I'm seeing in this room, our partners from other agencies, to really thank them for being with us for this conversation. And again, I stop there. I want to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Now I invite the President to give his remarks. Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. And let me begin by acknowledging the due protocol, begin with my beloved, beautiful wife, the First Lady. And my dear friend and older brother, Michelle Sidibe, a brother from another mother. Honorable Minister of International Affairs of Botswana, Honorable Minister of Health of Botswana and Wellness, the Ambassador and Permanent Representative to the UN, senior government officials, senior UNAIDS officials, senior UN officials, partners, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. I must stand here to confirm the introductory remarks offered by Mr. Michel Sidibe, specifically those that spoke to my affinity to him. It is true. Yeah, I'm fond of Michel Sidibe. It's fondness that is not without a purpose and a reason. He's a good man fighting a good cause. And I bet you, if any of you accompany him to heaven, when he does arrive, he will find his place, clearly labeled, continuing the journey, the fight against HIV and AIDS, even in heaven. Thank you. Embrace me. I'm very pleased to have had this, been given this opportunity to interact with you at this very important event with the UNAIDS Executive Director, Mr. Sidibe, and his deputy and senior staff, and to share Botswana's vision on addressing the HIV and AIDS epidemic, which continues to be one of the key public health concerns in my country. Allow me to reaffirm Botswana's unwavering commitment to refining our strategies in line with the United Nations covenants and declarations. We continue to count on your stewardship at UNAIDS and your sister United Nations agencies to ensure that our countries invest in efficacious approaches with predictable levels of impact at the national level. I hasten to indicate that Botswana has made notable progress in her investment in the HIV and AIDS response and in ensuring a sustained continuum of care for our people. It gives us hope that as a country we can achieve more with what we have. According to the UNAIDS Global AIDS Update Report released in July 2018, Botswana is among 6 countries on track to attain the 1990-90 targets. With bold ambitions and determination at the center of our HIV national response, Botswana is on the verge of a historic achievement of epidemiological control to ensure an HIV-free future as envisaged in the Botswana National Vision 2036. In June 2016, my predecessor, the former President, Lieutenant General Dr. Zakame and Kama, launched the Treat All strategy, exemplifying political commitment to the HIV and AIDS national response. By June 2018, using the treatment cascade model, of all people living with HIV, 88% knew their HIV status, and 84.4% were on life-saving treatment, while 94% had their HIV virus in their bodies suppressed. We believe that this will contribute in no small measure to halting transmission of new HIV incidences. Furthermore, notable progress has been made on prevention of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, with an appreciable uptake of 96%, pointing to a possible elimination of virtual transmission of mother-to-child, now standing at 1.4%. As an add-on strategy, voluntary male circumcision contributes towards prevention of new HIV infections. To achieve greater impact, we have introduced strategic approaches, thereby increasing coverage from 44% in 2016 to 69.4% by March of 2018. In spite of the selected areas of good progress, recent evidence from local estimates and projections suggests a slight increase of 4% in new HIV infections from 13,208 in 2010 to 13,799 in 2017. Such estimates have been corroborated by a report among the 16 to 24-year-old adolescents and young adults in Botswana. The report by Botswana Harvard AIDS Institute indicated risky sexual practices among this group to be early sexual debut, low and inconsistent condom use, alcohol abuse, intergenerational sex, and multiple sexual partners, most of whom were concurrent. Botswana's high level of political commitment remains unequivocal. I have implored my government and Botswana to reprioritize HIV as one of our key focus areas, calling for renewed energy and impetus. This commitment is epitomized by government's allocation of 65% funding to the AIDS resource envelope, augmented by our key partners such as PEPFAR, Global Fund, the United Nations Family, and other friends, which is the remaining 35%. We have just completed the third National Strategic Framework on HIV and AIDS for 2018-2023, which provides dynamism and thrust in placing HIV primary prevention at the center of the response. This is in line with government's paradigm shift to primary health care for general health delivery. Having been recently invited to join the Global Coalition in HIV prevention, spearheaded by UNAIDS, Botswana stands ready to sprint the last mile to epidemic control and epidemic seizure. Botswana's quest to find solutions to the HIV global challenge through cutting-edge science, research, and public health approaches is unrelenting. We continue to partner with various organizations, academia, and with the United Nations to deliver efficacious treatment regimes, expand our knowledge base on vaccines and pharmaceutical products in order to transform our national development agenda, as well as contribute to global expertise. Efficient infrastructure and strong systems are key tenets of an effective monitoring and evaluation framework. In fulfillment of our national imperatives and in accordance with the UNAIDS 3-1 principle, my country is conducting the 5th Botswana AIDS Impact Survey, BIAS-5, this time combined with the tuberculosis prevalence survey. answer is obvious. This is a complex national undertaking with huge financial, technical, and technological investments. We count on our partners, such as yourselves gathered in this room, to support this noble cause, which requires specialists in key areas, specialized equipment, as well as modern information and communications technologies. In conclusion, I wish to congratulate you and your team for leading the global HIV agenda with humility and professionalism. You touch every one of our countries personally in your bid to extend your leadership and guidance. And for that, we are eternally grateful. And finally, let me thank a hero of ours in Botswana, without whose attention to this and response, we never would be where we are, let alone exist as a nation state. His Excellency, former President, Dr. Festus Montebani Mogai. And for those of you who might not know enough about him, Google Mogai.
Thank you, Mr. President, for sharing your vision and your huge commitment to keep AIDS at the top of the political agenda. It means so much to all of us here to be able to hear your words and to inspire us to keep going until we end this epidemic. It's a public health threat. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions in the rooms for both of you, but let me first give the first question to Michelle. Michelle?
Now, mine is very easy. First, I want to say thanks to you. Thanks for your leadership and clear demonstration of your knowledge on these issues and the direction you want to really take with this epidemic in Botswana. When you have been just coming in this position, your first speech, you were talking about AIDS, not losing the game. And I'm completely in harmony with you, my brother, because that is where I'm asking myself, after this great war, the epicenter of the crisis was SADC, southern part of Africa. I remember, South Africa in 2001, we didn't have even 90% on treatment. Today we have 4.3 million people on treatment. I'm seeing my brother, he was Minister of Health, now he's ambassador from Kenya. They have 1.1 million people on treatment. I can see many other leaders here from Rwanda, Zambia, and others. They are all reaching millions of people on treatment. I want you to really elaborate a little bit. What could be the vision from your point of view for sustaining those gains? Because I'm very scared as a leader, pushing, demonstrating that transformation could happen. But when I look at, I'm seeing that our continent is faced with two types of dependency. One is financial dependency. 95% of those people who are on treatment today based on resources coming from abroad. And the second dependency is commodity. And if we're not careful, we'll be faced with a huge commodity crisis because we have a problem with commodity security. It could be condom, it could be drugs, it could be medicine. For years, I was calling for making sure that this continent can start producing their own medicine. Today, we are producing only 3% of the medicine we are consuming. And we have 25% of the disease burden in this continent. And I want you as, like I said, not leader of yesterday, but leader of tomorrow of our continent, to really give me your vision, how you can help us with SADC, how you can bring a different discourse around these issues.
Thank you very much. And thanks for the question. And I will be as normative as I can. And permit me to be candid. I'm sure it's allowed here. You know, there's been a lot of despair on matters to do with HIV and AIDS and despondency. And particularly we in Southern Africa are going through massive transformations as there's a renewal of leadership. Thank goodness, largely peaceful. And we have an organization for the region. The biggest political organization of the region is SADC. And we have a wonderful leader in President Gego, someone you know quite well, and is a president of our neighbor in Namibia. And I personally think that we really need to get to the focus of it, deal with the problem, and deal with the problem as if it were our own problem. This HIV is ours before it's anybody else's. And so when we do ask for help, it must be for help. Help is always temporary, and help is only to add to what you already are doing. And that speaks to the ratios. Clearly, it would assume you're doing more than the helper. And if we find ourselves in a position like we are now, in some places, where the helper is providing more than we are helping, clearly our priorities are not pegged right. So the first thing we have to do is iterate and get our priorities right. You know, you can't boil an egg by peeling the shell and then boiling it. You've got to boil it, harden it, and then peel the shell. So if you're to attain the SDGs, you've got to do the right things in the right sequence. So deal with our biggest challenge, which is HIV. The second point is that we all remain developing countries, largely third world, if not some fourth world. And if we are, the biomedical intervention should be seen as a response to a crisis. The long term, if we're to be efficacious indeed, should be internalized. And that's why I want to transition to prevention and deal with the incidence rate much more than the prevalence. So we have these twin challenges, and I intend to master whatever influence I have to make sure that we focus right, and to the extent we can, we commonalize the response across the region so that we can also talk to you as a region. What help can you give us in these areas, having set the priorities to the UN as one, not many UNs, as one, and other partners in the same way. We also owe it to the world to be transparent in what we do, to provide for clean governance, good governance, to be predictable, to be stable, and not undo what humanity set us here to do. That's my commitment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Let me just take 1 minute to reflect on the word prevention. One of the major challenges today in the global health and in this epidemic in general is that our adolescent girls are more and more infected. And that violence against adolescent girls, women, are become, in many places, unfortunately, rampant. So what we can do to change that? How we can really make sure that, and at this, and I was reflecting, men are not tested. They don't know their status. The issues of responsibility is becoming very challenging. We have a new movement now with the Me Too pushing us to make in the right way to put light on some of that part of what is existing. How we can work together to transform those types of situations?
You know, we've iterated on this at home in Botswana, where we have the same challenges. I mean, the Me Too movement could have easily been born in Botswana because there are many. But as long as men remain outside the Me Too movement, there is a problem. As long as men do not see a part of the woman in them, then there's a problem. As long as we continue to bury our heads in the sand as leaders in terms of not doing enough to ensure that everybody is accountable for what they do, and if not, the state should step in to ensure they're accountable, then there's a problem. And so I think part of what we ought to do is to assist men redefine manhood in the face of our quest to eliminate HIV transmission. So manhood needs to be redefined.
Man needs to be redefined.
I think we're starting off on a very provocative and interesting conversation already. And before I turn to the audience, let me please also share UNAIDS gratitude to the former President Mohai, who continues to this day to be an amazing champion for an AIDS-free generation in Africa, and we owe a great debt to him, and we will continue to look up to him for his guidance. Let me also take a moment to recognize UNAIDS Deputy Executive Director Ganel Carlson, as well as Jyoti Raja, who is the UNAIDS Country Director in Botswana. Thank you for being with us. Now, more fun. We get to open up the questions to the audience and to ask our distinguished audience if they would like to have a question for either Michelle or Mr. President.
Mr. President. Yes?
Yes, please.
We have a microphone here, please. Cedric? Yeah. Oh.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie.
We are not seeing you very well. President, no, not seeing you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Patrick Eba, and I'm the UNAIDS Country Director for the Central African Republic. Your Excellency, some of us believe very strongly that Botswana is actually the real name for Wakanda. And so, as a result, some of us believe that you might actually be the one.
You should have given that to me.
And of course, what you described today, this transformative journey of how your country was able to move from a daunting epidemic and create opportunities for access to health for all is really amazing. And of course, the story of Botswana is not just one of health. It's also one of the rule of law. It's also one of giving opportunities and making democracy work in an African context, demonstrating that indeed it is possible at home too. And so, Your Excellency, I know that Botswana is, as always, very mild about what he can contribute. But I wanted to take this opportunity to ask, really, what can other countries learn from Botswana in terms of their own journey towards democracy, towards transformation, towards inclusion and social justice? It would be really fantastic to hear your views on how we can all create better lives for our people. Thank you very much.
Maybe the President, you remember meeting him when he was helping us with African Union report on human rights.
Yes,
and you were there, you were the only Vice President present on this meeting.
No, thank you very much. You know, we have always offered to be of assistance to any of our Pan-African brethren. And we do that with humility, recognizing that our circumstances are not necessarily their circumstances. So they can pick from us what they think works best for them. We're an open book. We're an open book. And interestingly, you say that I had a chat after I went for lunch yesterday with the President of Central African Republic, who is known to my dear wife. When she served in the CAR, he happened to be living, because of the difficulties in CAR, in the conference room in the UN building when she was there. But I offered him to provide whatever assistance they wanted in the growth and development of whatever institution that they wanted. We're largely a peaceful nation state, so we didn't offer him guns to silence the other guns, and we don't have any to offer. But when it comes to policing, law enforcement, when it comes to institutions development, whether it be anti-corruption, whether it comes to local government structures and systems, mineral policy development, we're more than happy to help. Even when it comes to programmatic development and rollout, we're more than happy to do that. So we agreed. He picked particular areas, and he agreed. He'd send his ministers over to come, and we'd offer that. But we don't want to seem to be, rooftop diplomats who scream at everybody else and tell the world what to do, because we have our own challenges, and we're not perfect. And so we just want to keep doing it better and better and better, because our people deserve more and better.
Thank you very much. Now we have a question on this side, and then we're going to go over here, and I'll give the opportunity. Yes.
So, good morning, Mr. President, and thank you for sharing your vision with us this morning. I have a question. If you think about the future of a 10-year-old girl who is growing up in Hamarani today, what does her future look like? And how is it different? How is her destiny any different from a young girl growing up in rural Botswana? Thank you.
So that I'm challenging my office every day.
Yes, I see that. Yes. The challenges that the young urban girl faces in Botswana are multiple and enormous. One is we are a very mobile population. There's a lot of mobility. And here I'll keep looking at my wife for inspiration, because she's very keen on this age group of young girls. Comes from our daughter, who is just 13. But besides being very mobile, they are just pre-puberty at 10 years old, and they obviously go through their own personal transformations and bodily changes. And when they're put into society where men, as I said earlier, have not transformed in a manner consistent with what's required to arrest the epidemic, they have lots of men watching them in various ways. And sadly, if they happen to be perceived to be right, appropriate for some prowler, they might pounce on them. And very much more sadly, their first sexual act, whenever it is not likely to be a wanted one, or one in which they have a choice. And so when you disempower a young girl so badly, she is affected for life. And even if she did not get the virus. And so we need to undertake a societal shift in the way we perceive young people. And I might add both men, young boys and girls. If she's in rural Botswana, the threats might even be worse. It's much riskier because of the greater toleration of perhaps young girls wandering off on their own or carrying out chores unassisted, unprotected, as they may be in urban areas. And obviously there is the cash and the empowerment business, there's the transgenerational stuff. My wife has a name for it, Michelle. I think you and she talked about it. What is it?
What is it?
Mobile and hot.
Yes.
Mobile and hot.
Yeah. So the young girl in Botswana, I mean, I don't have the statistic, but they're probably more than twice as exposed to risk as a young boy of equivalent age. And the risks emanate more from the older and sometimes much older men. So transgenerations, they're doubly affected. There's a transgeneration of those immediately older than them, the transitional effect of those much older than them. You know, the near pot-bellied ones.
Thank you very much. I've been given the mic also to Vice Excellency saying, let me take the other picture, the optimistic picture. If she's 10 years old at home, for example, she would have received all her immunization thanks to the healthcare system that we have there. If she's 10 years old, she will be in standard 5 or 5th year of primary school. Yes. She will certainly go to high school because we have a 100% transition rate in education from 12 to 13. She would get at least 10 years of free education, at least. She's got a 58% chance of going to senior high, and she's got a 25% chance of going to tertiary education. So that is the great picture. Also, because of existing laws, if we implement the laws, because we have a Child Protection Act, I'm sure I'm saying it well right now, which is actually Children's Act, which is based on the CFC. Yes. If we implement it right as government, make sure that she's protected within the school system, the healthcare system, and also the justice system, you know, she doesn't have to suffer that. So at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that we have the policy framework, we have the legislative framework to protect her, we have the laws, the structures, but the test is actually making it work so that she doesn't have to fall into those crevices. So I think it is possible. Let's use what we already have in place so that her future can be secured. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for a very, very good discussion and for your leadership, Your Excellency, but also to hear these voices from your cabinet, and of course also the fabulous work being done by your wife, the First Lady. And I think this also tells us a lot about Botswana of today, a long-standing democracy, previous leaders that have taken this very serious, but also that it starts at home. And you are so much mentioning the role of women and girls in order to make Botswana develop. And I think this is really why we are so happy to have you here today, but also with that, the leadership the world needs for the future. My question is then moving to the United Nations. And what can we do? How do you see a reinvigorated United Nations development system? You mentioned the global goals. You also mentioned that UN as one. How can you help us to also be leaders and to transform in order to well assist the Botswanan people, and also you in your work as head of state for Botswana?
Thank you very much. I was hoping to get that question. I'm really glad. Deputy Executive Director. We in Botswana have just put in place a new national vision, long-term vision, Vision 2036, in which we aspire to be a high-income developed nation by 2036. Efficiency, internal efficiency in governance is at the core of it. And what Minister Dow described was exactly that. You as a UN and other partners need to help us be more internally efficient so that we are more effective. But you need to be internally efficient yourselves. So don't come to us when you are not efficient and try and preach efficiency to us. So be specific about who you bring to us. We want those who are going to add value. If you want internships, make it clear to us, and we will assist. We are members of the UN. We will contribute. It must be clear there's an internship. But don't send a rep and call them a rep when they are interns. We want you to add value to what we do. So scoping of who we are, what we can do is critical. And please don't get into the tendency of some in the development space who use these indicators pretty archaic. You know, upper middle income, therefore disqualified from. With epidemiologies, you don't count that way. And please teach them that when you next see them. So you need to be efficient when you come to us to realize our own internal efficiency. It's important that in being efficient, you work with your colleagues in other agencies. It's usually helpful to take a life cycle approach to the human being, because we do look after people who go through life stages. Not any different from life stages of a child anywhere in the world. So why would we not want what the best has? If you can't provide it financially because we can afford it ourselves, let's talk about it, and then we can be helped to budget so that we reproduce this goodness. And I have found that in many instances, a lot of things go wrong in the way in which we budget. And I think the UN has been somewhat removed from that sphere. So you've been very sectoral in what you budget for. So much for health, so much for education, but it's a total human being that we want to develop. So just reinvent yourselves to be a UN that is one, and prioritize properly. Because if you don't help us with our budgets, it means we're going to continue to spend money on the wrong priorities for the long term. It's absolute. If you're to attain peace and prosperity, international, peace and prosperity as a UN, you cannot if we have these budget inadequacies. Finally, it's important that you help us referee, or at least be on the lookout for the imbalances that continue to play themselves out internationally. The distortions. If our commodities fetch so much money only, and over long periods of time, and there's an overburden in the location of capital, you are going to have instability. Just like the human body, if you eat too much of the same thing, you're either constipated or you're going to need to see a doctor. So it's just basic logic. So I wish you luck. I think I'm a lifelong staff member of the UN, UNICEF. I'm very proud of that. And I believe in its ideals. And we'll never stop thinking about what the UN ought to be doing. I'm a big believer in it. And I'm really glad. It's the first time for me to be in Geneva. My wife's been here before. We in Southern Africa offer you the cradle of mankind. And you in Geneva offers the cradle of multilateralism. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really heard that everything we do, we need to add value to the life cycle approach. I think that's something we can really take to heart. I have seen so many hands, and I'm going to get to just a few more if you'll indulge. And I'm going to start with Amalawa here, who's requested, and then I saw a hand over on this side.
Time,
Yes.
I respect always.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to hear your reflection on something that both you and your wife are close to, and something that Michelle mentioned. And this is the issue around adolescent girls and young women and their vulnerability, and particularly in Eastern Southern Africa. And the reason I wanted your reflection is because this is a regional problem. When some of us were growing up in the region, when we went to school, at least at tertiary education, we were guaranteed two things: accommodation and food. In other words, campus accommodation and food. Today, the tertiary education has grown several folds.
in the region. And we have in the same discussion in South Africa around this. But the infrastructure to guarantee these young girls and women has not equally expanded. So an average student in tertiary education today lives off campus, probably doesn't have enough food to eat, and therefore the vulnerability that we see across the region. So it's a regional issue. What do you think we could do as a region around this issue, because it drives the epidemic in the region, the vulnerability of women, young women and girls, and because of some of these immediate challenges that they face.
Yeah, I don't want to look at that as a supply side problem, because the response would be supply more, build more, give more food.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a solution, because it cannot be afforded, but there are also cheaper methods to deal with it. And I'll still get back to this thing of identifying where the location of the risk is, truly. And you know it. And I worked with Bulao, I know him well, and he knows me well. The men who cry on these young girls are the biggest problems. Much as there may not be as much food, at least I know in the case of Botswana, in terms of the off-campus allowance they get, it is enough for food. It may be not enough for the choice of food that they want. And budgeting, like I said, when they put together their budgets, they prioritize other things, actually. And so we need to help societies manage its challenges, new challenges. Even when you and I went to university, those risks were still there. But we frowned upon them. But the ones of now don't so do. So I think governments, civil society, and that's where we need the smartness of international organizations to find the right recipe for dealing with that. So I don't think more accommodation will necessarily help. It might convenience more for other things.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you, Executive Director. I would like to really thank our President for the strategic
Minister
direction.
of Health of Botswana.
I would like to thank His Excellency, our President, for the leadership that he has since provided. And even Michelle was very excited about the direction that we are taking in integrating the multi-sectoral response of HIV/AIDS and NCDs, because it's a dual epidemic that we are facing as a country. And we have since realized that indeed, for us to fight this scourge, this double-edged scourge, we need to look at prevention in different ways. Within the continuum of prevention, there is primordial prevention, where we just have to concentrate on the family unit, and also primary prevention, where we go out in terms of public health campaigns, education. And when we were asking His Excellency about the communities, the secondary prevention, which I believe is also very, very critical. But as we've been helped by WHO to come up with organizational restructuring reforms, we will be concentrating more on primary prevention in order to fight these problems. We will be seeking help from yourselves to help us with what is also dear to His Excellency epidemiology. We'll be requiring or assisting for epidemiologists from your organizations to help us analyze data, manage data, have quality data that will also help us to fight from all fronts these two maladies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a perfect segue. Michelle, you've always been the first to say take things out of isolation, don't put it in the corner. It really is an entry point to so many difficult issues that are hard to talk about, and how can we learn from where we are. May I ask for your closing remarks before we turn to the President?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so privileged to have you with us today. And I want just to say that this discussion is showing clearly that AIDS is not just about disease. is about people. It's about people-centered approach. It's about transforming society from, Eastern Europe to Mali, to Egypt, to different parts of the world here represented. It's about solidarity. It's about inclusiveness, like you have been mentioning. It's about working together in partnership in different ways. It's about reinventing, like you said, the positioning of the women in the society. It's redefining manhood. So you have been touching so many things. But I will conclude by one point, which is very important. You said we need to rethink criteria for allocating resources. You said that I was just seeing the film of my many trips. I was in Saskatoon, in the northern part of Canada. It was minus 45. Someone from Mali is like in your place. When it's raining, we are all dancing because we are so happy. But minus 45, I can tell you, one of the most developed countries, I found their people left completely behind. That is the most developed country. People left behind, indigenous people with 31 times more TB risk, with 11 times more risk to be infected with HIV. And I moved from there, I can tell you, to Baltimore, to Bamako in my place, to Luxembourg yesterday. I found this island of poverty. People left, and with that, peace cannot be there. So we need to change our criteria for allocating the resources, not building our next SDGs thinking on developed middle-income countries, low-income countries, high-income countries. The world is more complex on that. I'm not talking about fragile countries anymore. I'm talking more and more about fragile communities who are a key for stability of the society, who are unfortunately left behind. And you're right, the UN need to transform itself, and that's what Guterres is calling for, is pushing all of us to be different, to not continue to make your life complicated, but be your partner to be able to deliver on common goods, which is about combating poverty and making our society more inclusive. And I want to thank you, and thanks the team, thanks the ambassador, thanks for accepting, because I know generally you're the one here telling us, oh no, President, don't go there. But thanks for allowing my brother, my friend to interact with, and it is just a debate about the future of our continent, the future of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, I give the last word to you.
Well, let me also echo the thanks sincerely, particularly to your team, for yourself, your new Deputy Executive Director who's migrated from doing good work for Sweden to now the world through UNAIDS.
To pick the best.
I know you're doing very well at that. The country director from Botswana,
your former country director there, the Chinese man?
Yes. Where'd you take him now?
Oh, he's here.
He's here, really. Thanks to him, Mbula was worked with you as a national and former colleague. So thanks a lot to UNAIDS. I want to thank you for your listening. The UN is a membership-driven organization. We are a member in good standing. So we appreciate being listened to, we appreciate being profiled, and being given a platform such as this. And we pledge to you to do our bit. You only need to ask. We also wish to invite you to come to Botswana. UNAIDS come to Botswana. And if you think, as you say you think of us, bring those who you want learning from us to meet in conference in Botswana over it. Bring those you want learning from us or copying from us, so that it doesn't seem arrogant on our part when we ask them to come, via bilateral cooperation. But the UNAIDS can play a magnificent role in assembling, global leaders in health, in, HIV management, policy development, what have you, to come to Botswana, and the Minister of Health and Wellness here would be more than glad to help host you. The Minister of International Affairs would be more than happy to welcome. For we have decided as Botswana to open ourselves up to the world and not only contribute to the world, but receive visitors. So do come to Botswana. And finally, I really want to thank you, Michelle, and UNAIDS for so sharply bringing to focus the issues that are before us and are a real threat to humanity. And I hope in your efforts, one day we will yield in the UN a basic standard and a menu of attributes, of considerations, of standards that those most removed from the margins would be assured of globally, a compact viewpoint. Thank you.